Okay, so to add a rotating camera effect to our final render, which is actually going to be an animation, first of all, we obviously need a camera. So Shift A, camera, and now we have a camera here. Find a place where you would like your rotation to start. For example, I think that this could be a good point. And then press Ctrl, Alt, and 0 from the numpad, and the camera will jump to your view. If you don't like it pretty much, you can press N. This panel will pop over, go to View, and check Camera to View. Now, if you move your view, the camera moves with you. Once you find a visual that you like, remember to tick this off, otherwise the camera will continue to move with you. 0 to ask from the camera mode. And now what we want to do is add an empty, which is actually the thing that's going to rotate for us. So Shift A, empty. Now you can use basically what you want. The most popular one here are plane axis and cube. I'm going to use plane axis. And what I want to do is for the empty to kind of fit the model. So here it's a bit too much down. So I'm going to press G and Z to move this on the Z axis. And now it's a bit difficult for me to see, so I'm also going to scale it to make it bigger. So S to scale. And I think this will do. As I was saying, the empty is actually going to rotate and the camera is going to follow it. To achieve this, we have to select our camera first, then press Shift and select your empty. If you have done this correctly, you will see that the camera is kind of orange, while the empty is more on the yellow tone. And that is because the empty is the active object, so the last thing that we selected when we select multiple stuff. Now, if you press Ctrl P and choose Object, you will see a dotted line. This will mean that you did everything correctly, great you, and also that now the empty and the camera have a relation. Specifically, the empty, since we selected it last, is the parent, and the camera is called a child. What this means, very simply, is that if we do something to the empty, like we grab it, the camera follows its movement. If we rotate it, the camera follows its movement. But if we do something to the camera, like we move it, or we rotate it, or we scale it, nothing happens to the empty. Now, what we want to do is actually create an animation for our camera, so we have to go over here, make this bigger, and make sure you have your empty selected, so this will open the animation for the empty. And these numbers up here are the frames that we want to use. If you want to use less than 250, you can change it here. I'm going to use 100. And now make sure you are at frame 1, that the empty is selected, and press I, rotation. This will create a keyframe that tells Blender, in my first frame, I want my empty to be rotated in this way. Now go to the last frame of your animation, and again make sure the empty is selected, press R to rotate, Z to rotate on the Z axis, and type 360 so that the camera will make the empty end, so the camera will make a complete circle. And now I and rotation. This created another frame, and if we move, we see that we achieved the rotating camera effect. We can also go with 0 in camera mode and see that the rotation is there. If you want the camera to rotate in the opposite direction, instead of 360, just type -360. Also, you may notice that, especially if I'm in camera mode and I let this play, you may see that the speed at which the camera rotates, it's not always the same. It's a bit, slower at the beginning and at the end. If you don't like this and you want your animation and your rotation to be at a constant speed, let's ask camera mode, make sure you have your empty selected, because if you don't, your keyframes will apparently disappear. So if you don't see those, again, make sure the empty is selected. If a keyframe is yellow, it means it is selected. If you click some other places, you will unselect them. So make sure they are both selected. Now right click, interpolation mode, and choose linear. Now if I'm going to camera mode with here 0 on the numpad, you can see that the rotation is constant. It's not slower at the beginning and at the end anymore. Another thing you may want to do, let me just make this a little less big, is that if you have a light, for example here, you may want it to follow the rotation as well. If that's the case, just parent it to the empty. So to parent it, you just select the light first, the empty second, Control P, object, and now with the dashed line, you know that it's parented. This means that when the empty rotates, the light rotates with it as well. You may want to undo this. In this case, select the light, because maybe you decide that you actually want the light to be always in the same place. With Alt P, clear parent, and now it's not parented to the empty anymore. Now, one thing you want to do is that you may want to change your frame rate. To do that, you have to press on this printer icon here, and you will see a voice called frame rate, so pretty self-explanatory. Now it's at 24 FPS, and if I make my animation play, you can see it as the speed. If I change my FPS, my frame per second, into a bigger number, it gets faster, and if I make it even a bigger number, it gets even faster. So choose what you like, but I think that for what I want to do, 24 frames per second are more than fine. And let's go in camera view with 0. Let's play our animation. And once you're happy with the final result, you want to tell Blender that you want to render not an image, but a video. In order to do that, that's always done in the panel that you open with the printer icon. Just scroll down until you see output. If it's not uncollapsed, you may see it like this. Just click on the little arrow, it will open for you. And what you want to do is change file format from PNG to FFmpeg video. Also, you have to go in encoding, so let's open that. And in container, you want to choose Matroska to MPEG4. And now we can go to render animation, or as a shortcut, Control F12. And this will give us our final render. So I hope that this video helped you in case you were in need. If I wasn't clear on some passages, or if you have some questions, let me know. I'll try to answer in the comments as best as I can, but consider that I'm still a novice, so I may not know the answers to your doubts.